this weekend. We have the actual Thunderbolt movie launching this weekend. And dude, I haven't been this stoked about a Marvel movie probably since Endgame.
Yeah, they've as we have discussed it at length, they have really kind of lost their way, and they're desperately trying to find their mojo again.
And actually, I lied because I was actually excited about Black Widow, and it did not disappoint, which is one of the reasons I'm excited about this. Because to me, I don't care about the rest of this movie, but the dynamic between Yelena and the Red Guardian, the trash talking that was so comical while they were doing great stuff, was excellent. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing a more fleshed out version of Julia Louis Dreyfus's character, kind of running the team, or at least their agent, if you will. I want to see how they work in Taskmaster and Ghost. And of course, I really feel like between Yelena and Sebastian Stan, they're going to be the concrete of the team.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm really hoping to get back to is to especially as we know that some of these individuals are probably winding down their MCU career, such as
yeah,
like Sebastian Stan. I believe that we're probably teetering on the end of his tenure in the MCU. Like, I'm sure he'll go on. He's already been announced for Doomsday and that kind of
yeah.
thing. But I think after this run with Doomsday and whatever the next one is going to be called after Doomsday and the Secret Wars, I think that's probably going to be where Sebastian Stan and many others that have been in the MCU for a long time are gonna call it a day and ride off into the sunset. But I mean, it only makes sense. He's getting older. He's taking time to do other things. It's harder to get into the kind of shape that they need him to be. And honestly, we really need to kind of like trim that roster down. But I do really hope that he gets a chance to shine and go back to those really gritty and emotional and psychological kind of places that we were in for the glory days of the Winter Soldier and Civil War and
Yeah.
that whole story arc with him.
And
So
for the,
I'm excited for him.
I agree with you there. I think he's at the tail end. I'd like to see Yelena stick around just because I love Florence Pugh. I wish they'd do an MCU movie called The Captains and just have Captain America and the Red Guardian and Captain Britain and just, Captain Carter and just do one of those. That would be wonderful. If they did it right, obviously. But I just think this is a really well balanced, every character is a different type of person on this team. And, I've seen a lot of DC homers and Marvel homers over the past month saying that Superman is the Fantastic Four killer, but Thunderbolts is the Superman killer.
We'll see.
And I
We'll
don't need
see.
any of them to be any kind of killer. I want all three of them to be great.
That's my ideal world, right?
Yeah.
It's have two companies at the height of their powers competing, right? Making each other better. I don't like having two struggling franchises trying to
Yes.
compete one because it sucks because I love them both. I want everything to be
Yeah.
good, and I miss when Marvel was killing it whenever they were cranking out banger after banger. And I really want
Yeah.
DC to be good, but DC has never gotten to that point. The closest DC ever got to that was the Nolan Batman films. And since those don't tie into anything, they're kind of and then all the best things that DC is doing are kind of in limbo because we have the Batman with Robert Pattinson as the Batman, and
Yeah.
that is kind of in its own little universe that's not connected to the greater DCEU that's going on with James Gunn. And then we had the Penguin on TV, which was obviously Colin Farrell reprising his role as the Penguin in the Batman. And that show was absolutely incredible. It got well-deserved praise. It was phenomenal, but it's not connected to the greater DCEU that James Gunn is doing. So we're still struggling. And as excited and cautiously optimistic as I am about about Superman, there are some things that I've heard about it that we'll get into that do give me a little bit of pause where I'm just like, I hope they don't fall into the trap. But yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that both do great things.
And I definitely want to address my concerns for Superman when we get to it. Not the least of which, and I know this is a stiff statement to make, and so I'll let you veg on it for a bit. If they don't use the John Williams score from the original Superman movie, this movie will fail.
I wouldn't.
I r- I realize that is a very stiff statement to make, but if you don't believe me, turn your surround sound all the way up, find the original Superman movie and start it out with your eyes closed. And when that music hits, I'm telling you, you'll feel like a little kid again for a few minutes.
No,
And
I
that's how
mean,
you know.
I definitely agree that score is incredibly important, especially whenever you're talking about something so timeless and well loved and over
Yeah.
such a span of time, like Star Wars, like Indiana Jones. Like these soundtracks become absolutely integral to their success, even in video games. And in fact, one of the video games that we're going to talk about later, if you're watching live and if you're watching a segment, there'll be another segment about this, and that's Clear Obscure. It has a fantastic soundtrack. So I do agree that the original score would be absolutely incredible and that it would be a fantastic thing to have. Do I think it would sync the whole movie? No, but I do think that it would be important. And I think James Gunn, I don't know, I from everything that I've seen him do, it seems like he's plugged into those things where it's like, you know, the
Yes.
the the greatness of the past. It seems like, I mean, the whole point of this Superman, clearly from the aesthetic style. Are we, hold on, before I get too into this, are we moving on from Thunderbolts and moving on to
Except to
Superman?
say, in regards to music, I feel like they're going to miss their mark if they don't use like a 90s alternative grunge, because that music genre was considered outcast and fringe, and these heroes are considered outcast and fringe. So I really feel like we need a Stone Temple Pilots, Blind Melon, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden style
I mean, that's my
soundtrack
favorite
for
era of
this.
music, so I would love
Yeah,
it.
same.
And for those of you that have listened to previous podcasts, you know what that asterisk is in the Thunderbolts, but I won't spoil it here on opening weekend, but you know.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
okay,
yes.
so moving on to Superman then. So just judging by, and from everything that we've seen with Superman, is that James Gunn is really looking to throw back. So that's why the score that you were talking about made me think about this, because it's all a throwback, right? He's doing the suit has the underwear on the outside again for the
I
first
love the
time.
suit. I
I,
love this suit, dude. I
I
think they
I
did a
think
great
that
job on it.
I think the suit has the potential to look good. It's looked good in the
Yeah.
trailers. It's obviously, anytime you see these set photos and these set photo leaks, the costumes always look absurd. They always look
Yeah.
ridiculous because you're seeing it in that light. There, you're not looking at it with the color correction and all this other stuff that goes on. And a lot of
Or
times,
even CGI sometimes that they do on costumes.
exactly, exactly. So there's changes that get made visually to alter the costume, but so it looked ridiculous in the original leaks. I think it looks pretty good in the trailers, and I think it'll probably look better. But it is still hard for me to wrap my head around the underwear on the outside.
Not
And
me, but I grew up with that, man. I mean, I'm that age group.
yeah, well,
So
it, so I mean, the whole thing is clearly a throwback to the old style of Superman, and I like that. I'm glad that he's doing that. So perhaps the John Williams score will be a thing that they allude to. I think they'll at least allude to it, surely.
well, one of the trailers has pieces of the John Williams score.
So what do you think about that then? Do you
Well,
think
I'm
that will
hoping
be
that
that's signifying that it will be in the film?
yeah, I think Gunn is trying to show we're not going too far away from the roots of those movies. Because if you remember Brandon Routh's Superman Returns, it
Which
used
I
the
think was way better
entirety.
than it got credit for.
Yeah, and it used the entirety of the John Williams score. It even used the Marlon Brando speech. The son becomes the father becomes the son, which still gives me the chills anytime you hear it. You'll be like them, but you'll not be one of them. That speak and the music that plays behind that, which is I think called Krypton's Son. It's a duality of words because it's Krypton's son is their actual son, and then obviously Kal-El. But I think it's one of those things where, like, if they put the Brando speech in there as part of the origin part, I'll lose my mind in the theater. That'll be it. But yeah, I'm really feeling like he's going with the retro vintage. We're going to give you the Man of Steel who fights for freedom and justice and for everybody. That one, where they've
So
kind of went away from that in the past few.
yeah, and as seen by the screen grab here that they had from the trailer, we have like this robot that's one of the keepers of the Fortress of Solitude, and obviously, if you've seen the trailer, it's not only do they look very throwback, look very much like robots from the time
Yeah,
of the animated cartoons from way back when, but they also, the way that they move, the way that they are animated is also very, very throwback. We also have Crypto, which is also a very throwback element for Superman, which I thought was maybe a bridge too far. But James Gunn, like we've said many times on the podcast, he has this innate ability to take the ridiculous or the fantastic and make it seem more believable, more palatable, and you just kind of accept it. As we've
Well,
mentioned before, he had a talking raccoon that could make you cry in the Guardians movies.
the set pieces they've been showing, this is something else that's interesting to me, is I want to know, because the set piece they keep showing is Superman's like on the verge. I'm not going to say dying, but he's been hurt bad. And it's one of those things where, like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
What led to this part of the scene? And then the robot thing really gave me Iron Legion vibes with Iron Man. So I love that kind of pull there. Um, but yeah,
So there was one thing that I heard, and it's, I can't personally confirm its legitimacy, so I would say take it as rumor, but it's one of those where it's
yeah,
like wink. So the big rumor that's out there right now is that within this movie, is that, so we've seen in the trailer that Superman is in handcuffs, and that is Lex Luthor's doing. And the way that Lex Luthor has done that is he has used misinformation
of
to
course.
turn the world against Superman. And one of the ways that he has done that is by using essentially online trolls. I won't go into what these online trolls are. It's even a bigger indicator of just how throwback this movie is going to be. But there's like online campaigns of these trolls, or sort of like paid trolls slash bots kind of thing, where they're spamming the internet with these hashtags and things like that. And my understanding is that the scene that this is very short, but I really like, I think that the Lex Luthor using misinformation, I mean, that's not even a modern dayism. That's just something that he's done. That's been a thing throughout the comics, throughout the whole time, is that Lex Luthor would use misinformation to turn people against Superman. So I don't mind that. I just don't want James Gunn to wade too far into the modern dayisms and preach to the audience. We come there for an escape. I want it to be an escape. I don't want it to turn into She-Hulk, where you basically make the audience the antagonist and point your finger and laugh, because we saw how that worked for She-Hulk. It did not. So that is my one
Absolutely.
concern about Superman. But I think James Gunn, I think he can navigate it. I just want to thank all of the listeners, supporters out there. We're growing. We're just getting our footing. It means the absolute world to us. Your clicks, your watching the videos, the likes, the comments, all that stuff. It helps us grow. It helps us know you. It helps YouTube know who else to show us to. So please drop a like,
Absolutely.
give us a subscribe, turn on notifications so you'll know every time that we're on Thursdays, 8, 7 Central.